Thank you very much, Mark. Now we've got two microphone monitors. I think Tara's up on the gods and Jenny's here. Now, I'm as blind as a fruit bat, but if you've got a question up on the gods, first of all, can you just raise your hand just to get an indication?
There's one there.
All right. Now, Tara's circulating in the white T-shirt, so just collar her if you want to ask a question. We'll try and coordinate this. Jenny, we'll start with you. Anyone down the front here for a question? Okay, sir. We'll just bring up the microphone.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Just in reference to your idea about the university, does it have to be either or? Does it have to be the whole university? For example, is it not possible to have parts of the university in town, particularly the creative arts, for example? Now, the last speakers were Martin Trustham and Jane Gregg, and they were talking about the South City and CPIT and working in with UC, etc. Yep. Would it not be possible, for example, to have parts of the university in town, which actually they were beforehand, so why not have them there still? And that would certainly tie into the idea of creativity and whatnot, and you could also have on the side of that postgraduate villages, whatnot, so, you know, it's students that have got past the burning mailbox stage, and, you know, you'd have them all in an area that would be a creative sort of area that,
I love that idea, and I'm totally supportive. I mean, these decisions are well above me, obviously, right? I would love to see that. There's a few things I'd love to see. I'd love to see a large lecture theater right in the middle of the CBD, which would serve to better, connect the university environment with the other people that live in the area, where some of our CBD residents could go and see university lectures every now and then in a large open space like that. The other thing is I'd love to see is an open space lecture theater, an outdoor lecture theater, shared between CPIT and UC. I think in moving parts of the university to that area, I think is a great idea. Perhaps the music and things like that, that's wonderful. Those decisions are well above me, but I would highly support it. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, Mark, I agreed with most of what you said. I thought it was extremely interesting ideas. But there seems to be a discontinuity between the fact that you acknowledge that sea level is going to rise inevitably, and the east, some of it is already below sea level. Shouldn't we also, I mean, instead of rebuilding the east, move west?
Okay, well, so if you want an asymmetric city with little pockets of, I mean, because the thing is, if you allow development to continue out to the west, that's fine. But if people buy there and live there, then they're going to want to have malls, and they're going to want to have their commercial out there, which perhaps is fine. But if we're going to keep the CBD where we are, and then continue to grow out and out and out there, and take our potential CBD businesses and spread them out apart, then my point is that's going to have long-term ramifications for the CBD. The other thing is, so with the eastern suburbs, I mean, it's undoubtedly, without a fact, work needs to be done on the ground in a major way to fix parts of those suburbs. One idea that I've had, I mean, to try and balance things financially, is to localize where that work gets done and to increase the density in those areas. You could choose areas that performed well during both earthquakes and increase the population density in those areas, connect them via the CBD to the tram. It's important that we don't let the east die, because a lot of people are still going to be living out there throughout the hardship. And it's important that the decisions we make about westward expansion do not come at the jeopardy of our CBD. That's why we're here, because we believe in the CBD. If we go for an asymmetric shotgun approach where we just let things blow out to the west, I think that's irresponsible if we're going to keep our CBD vibrant and where it is. No, it's not. It's not going to stop the sea level rising at all. But there are a lot of geotechnical solutions, which I showed you there, which can be done in parts of the eastern areas. And not everywhere in the east liquefied to buggery. Some places performed well, some places didn't. People still want to live by the oceans and these sort of things. I think it's irresponsible to just, I mean, financially irresponsible to try and blanket the whole thing with 4 meters of gravel and do all the sort of things I talk about. But I do think it is important that you still give people in the east options to live. A lot of them don't want to move from the east. You've got to be compassionate in that regard.
Okay. Tara, have you got a question up there? Okay. Yep.
Quick comments from the back. Mark, you're here from University of Canterbury. Can we take the opportunity from the audience of passing on our thanks to the student volunteer army of Canterbury University students and their many friends? And then secondly, I was really pleased to hear you recommending the idea of more community gardens. You can tell by my Pommy accent that I've lived in Britain for a while. There, the idea of the allotment is a tremendously good contributor to high-density living. You can live in an apartment, but you can use an allotment to grow fresh veggies and food. I'd also love to see more orchards and fruit trees within the central city in its redevelopment. And finally, just an unashamed plug for a project that links in with many of the ideas you're suggesting. It's called Greening the Rubble. It can be found on Facebook if you look for the word roll together, Greening the Rubble, or on the website. And we are working with willing landowners, private landowners, who are releasing the use of small areas of their land for the community to make temporary parks and gardens on that land until they're ready to redevelop. We'd love to talk with and work with more private landowners, particularly on commercial streets, who'd like to collaborate with us. So it's Greening the Rubble. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Right, we're going to have to hustle. Come down here, Jenny. David Morrill.
Hi. You said you wanted more Māori in some area anyway, reasonably close. There is actually, and I possibly shouldn't say this, but there is actually a small and very functional marae right close to Latimer Square, right now, opposite Christchurch East School. It's been going for years. It probably is still owned by the City Mission. It was in my day. It's pretty autonomous. It would have considerable capacity for expansion, I suspect. And when I was at City Mission, the bowling club was in the way, and there's nothing we could do about that. But anyway, just a thought, if that's what you want. There's quite a viable marae operating for years there, quietly.
Okay.
Go across there first of all, and they've been very patient. Yep. And then we'll come down here.
Mark, you introduced the idea of a stronger Maori presence in the CBD, and I absolutely support that, but there's actually a lot of buried Maori history in the CBD, and one of those which was mentioned by Mark Solomon yesterday was the original settlement, which I think was called Puari, and it would be a brilliant concept, I think, to try and locate that settlement and see if it could be reconstructed on or near the traditional site.
Okay, questions, yes.
Hi. I heard recently that the ground is still subsiding in the central city, and also it's obviously still moving. So when do you think we can look at rebuilding realistically? And should we rebuild there? Would it not? And I've also heard on places like BBC World that modern cities are going to work best when the CBD is close to the airport. So perhaps should we consider moving the whole CBD to right next to the airport?
I don't think you'll get a lot of support for that, to be fair. I mean, one of the contexts in which I present here was a set of criteria, and one of those criteria is that the CBD should stay where it is. So I'm not going to really step beyond the fact of playing the rules of the game in that sense. I think the CBD, my main point was geotechnical engineers can actually do anything that they need to do to improve the CBD. They can make ground better, denser, they can make the building foundations deeper, they can make more they can put more gravel in. These sort of things can be handled geotechnically. Before we talk about moving a CBD to the airport, and then what? I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure in the CBD. I don't think we should be even considering that as an option, to be fair. But
all right, sir.
Hi, Mark. My question is around canals in the city.
The which, sorry?
Canals in the city.
Canals, yeah.
The water table, the rising waters. What's the possibility? It sounds very exciting to have a city with canals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my point with that was all that is possible and could be done very, very well and very tastefully. It doesn't need to be done. Geotechnically, it can be dealt with, but if it enhances the livability and the aesthetic beauty of the CBD without compromising things like our road patterns, then I think that it would be really useful. And so, yeah, so I guess in some ways I think, I'm open-minded to something like that. I guess the other thing, I'm going to say one more thing that's going to make me really unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyways because I don't really care. There's been a lot of talk about reducing or getting rid of the one-way streets. Everybody who lives in the east knows that if you want to go from the east to the west, you get on Kilmore Street and you go. If you sit on Gloucester, you're going to be 20 bloody minutes or more getting through the CBD. And everyone from the north knows if you want to go to the Port Hills, you don't go right down the middle of the city, you jump on Barbados and away you go, and you get all the lights and away you go, right? So, I mean, if we got to be reality. There's people talking about keeping some cars. I agree with that. There's people talking about getting rid of the one-way streets. They're there for a reason. They're there so people can move efficiently through the city. If we get rid of all those, then, you've got people blocked up on Morehouse and Fitzgerald and all the rest, and we all know what that's like post-earthquake. It's terrible. So,
All right, we've got time for one more question. Ma'am, you've been waiting. I'm sorry I missed you before. We'll come here, Jenny. Mark will be available for one-on-ones, fleetingly after this session, by the way, professionally speaking. It's a Sunday.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of little ideas which I've been pursuing. The lowering of the water levels, it may be a great opportunity in Kerr's Reach. I understand that the land each side has sunk and that a lot of the houses either side are going to have to go.
Yep.
I propose that we widen Kerr's Reach, we make a world-class rowing centre there, deepen it, and the soil that's taken from there be used as levees and with also for other materials used as riprap to stop further erosion. The other thought I had was for a world-class links golf course along the eastern shore. That is one thing that the South Island lacks. Just a couple of little things.
As long as there's a tsunami alarm system, I'm supportive of that. Hey, look, I just wanted to say one more thing because I don't want to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. I'm not saying that we should spend $10 billion making sure that everyone in the eastern suburbs keeps the exact same plot of land that they have, only it's 3 meters higher and it's got well-engineered materials on it. All right? Don't for a minute think that that's what my point is. My point is that some places, sure, I'm not a geotechnical engineer, but some places may not make sense to keep. Okay? I think we're facing that reality. You can use those spaces to have orchards, to have farmers markets, to have cows in the sea, I mean, whatever you want to do there. Cycleways, all that sort of stuff. Those sort of decisions can be made, but it should focus on connecting the east better to the CBD and making smart decisions about where you rebuild and relocate. I don't know how many of you have been out there and looked around, but if you haven't, you should. Don't worry about feeling like you're rubbernecking, because we welcome you to our suburb because you need to be aware of what people are living with and what they're dealing with out in that area. There's some people who still got sand on their lawns from September. All right? So have a look.
Dr. Mark Quigley.